Every day, across thousands of pharmacies in India, this exact moment happens. Someone walks in with a fever, cough, a stomachache, no diagnosis, no prescription, no time to wait, and they walk out with an antibiotic. It feels like a small, harmless transaction, a quick fix for a bad day. But multiply that moment by 100 million times over decades, and you get something much bigger. You get a country that is quietly running out of the ability to treat infections that were once trivial. A paper cut, a UTI, a C-section. This is the story why that pill in your hand might not work the next time you actually need it. So now, let's start with the confusion at the center of all of this. Because most antibiotic misuse begins with one simple understandable mistake. Treating every infection like it's the same kind of enemy. But just that, it is not. Now there are bacteria and there are viruses. Let's understand the differences on a very technical, on a very science level grounds. What are exactly bacteria? Bacteria are single cell living organisms. They have their own machinery, a cell wall, ribosomes, enzymes, all the working parts of something that is in its own way alive. That's exactly why antibiotics works on them. Antibiotics are designed to attack that machinery. Some punch holes in the bacterial cell wall. Some jam the bacteria's ability to build proteins. Some block their ability to copy their own DNA. The bacteria dies or stops multiplying, and your immune system mops up the rest. Now let's talk about viruses. Viruses are a completely different kind of problem. A virus isn't really alive in the same sense. It's a piece of genetic material wrapped in a protein shell, and it has no machinery of its own. It can't reproduce on its own. Instead, it breaks into your own cells and hijacks your machinery to make copies of itself. And this is the part that matters most for this video. Antibiotics have no target in a virus. There's no cell wall to break, no bacterial ribosomes to jam. You cannot shoot an arrow at something that isn't there. Giving an antibiotic for a viral infection is like calling an exterminator for a ghost. So why does this matter clinically? Because most of the infections that send people running to a pharmacy, the common cold, flu, most sore throats, most diarrhea, most bronchitis in otherwise healthy people are viral. And an antibiotic taken for a viral illness does two things. First, it does nothing for the illness itself, since your body has to clear the virus on its own. And it does something harmful. That's the second part. It kills off some of the harmless bacteria living in your gut and elsewhere. And in doing so, it trains the toughest, most resistant bacteria among them to survive and multiply. So the viral and bacterial illnesses can be differentiated somewhat with the clinical course, like how it started, how is the duration, and how it is progressing. So viral illnesses tend to come on gradually, often with a runny nose, body ache, low fever spikes, and builds over day 2 or 3. Bacterial, on the other hand, is usually sharper, comes with localized pattern like localized pain, localized infection, like one ear or one sinus, or like throat with visible inflammation signs. So there are some tests which can differentiate bacterial and viral infection. Like in hospital or a clinic setting, doctors use blood tests like WBC counts, that is white blood cell counts, CRP or procalcitonin, and sometimes cultures, meaning growing an organism from blood, urine, or sputum in a lab. This actually confirms what's going on rather than just guesswork. This is the diagnostic backbone that gets skipped entirely in most street level prescription free antibiotic use in India. The point of this video isn't to turn every viewer into a self-diagnosing doctor. The point is the opposite, to make clear that the distinction is genuinely hard. It is difficult, which is exactly why it needs to be made by a trained clinician with right tools, not just guessing under some commercial pressure to sell something. Now here's where the story gets uncomfortable, because India isn't just a country with an antibiotic misuse problem. Multiple recent analyses have pointed to India as one of the epicenters of the global fight against antibiotic resistance. Now let's look at the numbers. A large international analysis published in the Lancet Public Health modeled what optimal antibiotic use would look like for 186 countries based on each country's actual infection and resistance burden, and then compared that to what's really being consumed. For India, the ideal use was estimated at around 14.7 defined daily doses per 1,000 people per day. Get that numbers right in. And what was actually used came in higher at around 18.3. But the more revealing number isn't the total, it's the mix. The World Health Organization classifies antibiotics into 3 tiers. Access drugs, meaning safe first-line antibiotics meant to be used often. Second, watch drugs, meaning more powerful, broader spectrum antibiotics meant to be reserved for specific, more serious infections because they carry a higher risk of driving resistance. And third, reserve drugs, the last resort options meant to be used only when nothing else works. India's access drugs use came in far below the estimated need, around 4.5 against an ideal of 7.8. But watch drugs use came in well above what's recommended, around 9.3 against an ideal of 6. In other words, India isn't just using more antibiotics than it needs. It's reaching for the powerful, resistance-driving drugs first, while underusing the safer first-line options that should be the default. Zoom out to the global picture, and India's story fits the much larger, faster-moving trend. A 2024 analysis published in PNAS tracking antibiotic consumption across dozens of countries found that global antibiotic use rose by roughly 16% between 2016 and 2023, climbing from about 29.5 billion to 34.3 billion defined daily doses. But statistics only tell you the shape of the problem. The why is where India's story becomes genuinely distinct. Reason 1. The pharmacy is the doctor. In large parts of the urban and rural India, a pharmacist is the fastest, cheapest, and often the only accessible point of care. Reason number 2. Money and time. For a daily wage worker, a full course of antibiotics or a day lost in a clinic visit isn't a minor inconvenience. It can mean a difference between making rent that week or not. So the transaction becomes 3 days of a strip of tablet, enough to get back on your feet, rather than the full course a bacterial infection actually needs to be cleared. that incomplete dosing is one of the most direct ways resistant bacteria get created. Not by using too much, but by using just enough to kill the weak bacteria and leave the strong ones standing there to become resistant. Reason number 3, the supply side. Research on drug wholesalers and distribution networks in India has documented how commercial incentives from manufacturers down to the neighborhood chemist reward volume, not appropriateness. Newer, broader spectrum antibiotics are often priced competitively with basic, narrow spectrum ones, which removes any economic reason to reach for the safer first option. And reason number 4, the hospital itself. It's tempting to think of misuse as purely a street level, unregulated problem, but it isn't. Inside private hospitals, antibiotics are sometimes used less as targeted therapy and more as an operational tool, prescribing early and broadly to move patients through faster, or using prophylactic antibiotics around routine procedures to reduce bed days. In systems where hospital revenue is tied to patient turnover, the antibiotic becomes part of the business model, not just treatment plan. None of this is really about individual people making careless choices. The pharmacist who sells 3 days of antibiotics to someone who can't afford a full course or a doctor's visit isn't the villain of the story. He is often responding rationally to a system that gives him no better option. So what happens when this keeps going? Antibiotic resistance isn't an abstract future threat. It's already showing up in India's hospitals. Multi-drug resistant infections, especially in intensive care units, are increasingly common, and last resort antibiotic classes like carbapenems, the drugs held in reserve for infections nothing else can touch, are already seeing rising resistance in some tertiary centers. And this circles back to something that should worry every family, not just every doctor. Modern medicine doesn't just depend on antibiotics to treat infections. It depends on antibiotics to make everything else safe. C-section, hip replacement, chemotherapy. Every one of these routine, everyday procedures carries a risk of infection that we currently manage because we can trust that a course of antibiotic will handle it. If something goes wrong, erode that trust, and you don't just lose the ability to treat infections, you lose the safety net underneath the huge share of modern hospital medicine. This isn't a hopeless story. There are concrete working interventions. First, antimicrobial stewardship programs. Structured hospital level systems that review and guide how antibiotics are prescribed have shown real results in India. A recent review of stewardship programs across Indian tertiary care hospitals found that where properly implemented, they cut antibiotic use by as much as third without compromising patients' outcome. Second, better point of care diagnostics. Faster, cheaper tests that can distinguish bacterial from viral infections right in the clinic would remove the guesswork that currently pushes doctors towards just-in-case prescribing. And third, prescription enforcement at the pharmacy level, which exists in policy in India but is inconsistently applied, would close the single biggest open door for misuse. And now, at an individual level, for anyone watching this video, the actionable takeaway is simple. Antibiotics are not a symptom relief drug. They don't work faster than your immune system on a viral illness, and using them just in case isn't a harmless precaution. It's a withdrawal from a shared account that the whole health system depends on. If you don't have a confirmed bacterial infection, an antibiotic isn't going to help you get better sooner. It's just going to make the next infection, yours or someone else, a little harder to treat. So, being a little responsible, a little cautious, and little knowledgeable can go through a long way. That reframes the matters because it changes where the solution has to live, not just in telling individuals to use antibiotic responsibly, but in fixing the structural gaps. Access to affordable diagnosis, enforcement of prescription only sales, stewardship programs inside hospitals that make misuse the path of least resistance in the first place. That moment at the pharmacy counter isn't really about one person's fever. It's a tiny transaction inside a much bigger system, one where doctors, patients, pharmacists, and hospitals all are responding rationally to the pressures around them. And the bacteria are the only ones actually keeping a score. The good news is, this is one of the few public health crises where the fix isn't a mystery. We know what works. The question is whether the system moves fast enough to use it before the drugs we are counting on stops working. So, be a responsible person, and if you want to know more about medical insights, follow me. Thank you.